Hey, how you doing out there, survivors, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Survive Interviews. Today, I'm back with another outlaw, but this time I've got a holy one on my hands. That's right, today I'm interviewing Sean Haberle, who is Reverend Swanson in Red Dead Redemption 2. Sean, welcome to the channel.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. It's nice to be here.
I said holy, but Reverend Swanson is not necessarily the most holy character. Probably not even the most holy outlaw.
Yeah. Well, he's trying.
He's trying.
He's a bit lost. He's wandering in the wilderness for 40 days or years. So
that's about how long I played Red Dead for, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
400 days, sorry, yeah. Sean, I hope I didn't butcher your surname, because that's something I often have trouble with.
What'd you say? How'd you say it?
Haberle.
Haberle. That's really close.
Haberle. Dang it. Got close that time. I think Stephen Jevedon was the one that I kept butchering. But so, the first question I kind of want to ask you is, you have a background in film and TV. What was it like the day that you turned up on set for Red Dead and you saw what you were going to be involved in?
It was nuts. Well, the first thing was I had developed some kind of, I shot it for 5 years, so I don't know when the hell it was. It was 1990 or something, whenever I got there. But I had developed this, I got the part, and I don't play video games, so I had no idea what it was. I'm like, all right, what? Okay, I'll do it. So, but I developed this incredible fever cold, and I was just dead sick, and I had no voice whatsoever. And the first day, it seems like what they do is they pack you with tons and tons of material. So I had like 5 scenes to do. And it's the scene where I'm playing cards and Arthur comes in and I run off and eventually he saves me from the train, which is, it's one of the pivotal scenes. And literally in between shooting, I'm chugging tea with honey and whatever else they got because I had no voice whatsoever. And I could barely scrape together, Mr. Morgan. And it's funny to watch it now that they kept it. And I was dead sure I was fired after that day. And it was very strange. And you don't get backstory and you don't get the whole script as opposed to a film or a TV. You can kind of tell where you're coming from and where you're going. And I had a very kind of brief thing on the spot to do. And I think I started it pretty straight, I guess. Yeah. And director came up and he said, I think he's a bit broader, big. And I'm like, how big? Big. So, I just go to 90. He's like, it's great. And so because of that first day, that's the way I had to do a character for 5 years. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting though, because bringing up the whole, I've heard a couple of other people tell me about the whole script situation where they weren't getting advanced because of the nature of the project. You weren't getting the scripts in advance. But for a character like yours, who, in a lot of ways, I would say is probably one of the more, even though, as you say, he is kind of dialed up to 90 and funny and stuff, he's also kind of deeply tragic. Like when you kind of discover that there's a lot going on behind the scenes of this character, he's not just what he appears to be on the surface. Did you was that kind of difficult to find within the character with kind of being drip fed the material as you went along?
No, really. I was self-sourcing on a lot of it, and I was taking my own particular pathetic life, or no, interesting. A lot of things have happened, so I had a lot to kind of dwell on, and I think early on I knew there was a deep yearning in the character, a desire for something he didn't quite know what it was, which was interesting to play. But he was doing it through religion, and sometimes it was just about, give me something to do today that will affect the game, that's physically, that I'll go on a mission or I'll get on a horse. And inside, me thinking, I wish they would give me something like that to do, as opposed to giant rambling speeches. So I took that and crumbled it up and shoved it deep down inside, that kind of yearning to be more of a, an active part. And I think that just that felt right for the character, that kind of yearning.
Definitely. I mean, it's. I think. I mean, what I was kind of alluding to there is that, like, we kind of get it's kind of evident in the game that Reverend Swanson has addiction problems and things like that, and I think that people that do suffer from that, often they are trying to fill a void. They are trying to fill something that they're missing or something that they've lost. And I think that's, again, what makes him an interesting character. Because just to repeat what I've said in previous episodes, but it is true for this game, so I always think it bears mentioning, is that in most video games, you don't care about 90% of the characters. You care about your main character and probably, like, a love interest or something. But, like, in this game, my favorite thing about it, and the reason that I connected so much to it, is, I think it's because I'm a writer as well, is that every character was important. It wasn't just about Arthur Morgan. It wasn't just about, him. It was, you cared about every person in that camp to some degree. And I think stuff like having Reverend Swanson have those kind of demons that he was fighting made him a character that people could relate to. They could say, oh my God, I've been there, or I've known someone who's been there,
Yeah.
To go to the kind of, you were saying you had a lot of kind of the long monologues, and that is something that I do think of when I think of Reverend Swanson. Is the he's a preacher, so he'd be preaching. I can imagine that, again, if you're only getting the scripts kind of a day, 2 days before, that's got to be very difficult to remember.
There was no sleep. It was just tons of coffee. And I would the days that I got the script where I had just a couple little fun lines, I was like that, and then I'd turn to page 6 and there'd be this, bah! And I'm like, oh God, but I loved it. I loved the challenge of putting that together and trying to make sense of it and make it mean something when it's just, and beautiful writers. The writers on there are really beautiful, and the way they manipulate language and twist the words around and stuff, and it's I don't know, it's really, really fun, hard to work on.
And I mean, you were saying you never really played video games or anything like that, but I'm not saying that this game make you suddenly start playing video games, because I doubt it greatly, but did it give you a different perspective on where video games are as a medium now, like how much they've come along?
Yeah, definitely. Especially what hit me was the graphics and the visuals and stuff like that. And I did, my son played it a lot, and I watched him, and the kind of feeling of accomplishment and missions and going through things and problem solving, I thought was really interesting, really cool.
And then I think one of the other things, because as I say, if you've watched your son play it, one of the other things that I've really loved about the game is that there's a real sense of choice as well. You don't have to just do the same one thing. In Mario, you go from left to right and you jump on stuff, and there's no real options of what to do in a Mario game. But in Red Dead, you can go fishing, you can go play cards somewhere, you can go off on a mission. There's no obligation to do anything, so...
That's one thing.
Yeah, it's funny because my mother saw me playing games like Red Dead and Assassin's Creed, and what she said was, these are like time machines. Like, she was saying that because, like, you can literally go to a world that you've never seen, like an old, like a place you could have never been to. And I thought that was incredible because I'd never thought about it like that. But as soon as she said it, I was like, this is basically the holodeck from Star Wars. Or Star Trek.
Yeah.
And especially something like Red Dead, where you're living in the Old West. What, in terms of kind of your interactions with the other characters in the game, what characters did you, because I mean, I could warrant a guess at this, but like, what characters did you kind of have the most interactions with, and did you develop a bond with them, with the actors who played those characters?
A little bit with Roger, who played Arthur, because also in the morning, he was my source of information. I could go to him, and he was so kind in terms of just, I said, what the hell is going on? Where are we? What's going on? They go, oh, well, this is, and he knew absolutely everything in terms of storyline. So in that, the 7 minutes, I could grab him before he went on to do his, big hard day, of which I'd be a part of, some 2 hours down the line. He took the time to kind of explain things to me and stuff like that. And that was that was very kind. And
That's
then,
incredible.
yeah. And like Sam and Kylie and Mia, they were all just wonderful people to be in the holding deck with, before we all went on. But yeah.
In my head, I'm just seeing Roger like trying to make a beeline for set, and just like each person kind of stopping him and being like, "What's my thing for today?"
No, it was the opposite. Like, I had no
Really?
idea how he was getting his lines down, because he spent so much time with each of us, just kind of not in a not in like a pricky "this is what's going on" way, but in helping, running through scenes beforehand, just so everybody had the lines right, and then kind of fielding questions and talking and being very sharing and democratic. So that was very, very cool.
So that's amazing. As you say, like, you don't necessarily get that on all sets. You know what I mean? You don't get that kind of reciprocity. I don't know. I can't even say that word. But you don't, like, you. There's often times where you have infighting between actors, or people trying to one up each other, or things like that. And those sets suck, like, as you know yourself.
Well, the funny thing is we all put on that, I don't think I'm violating my NDA, but we all put on, the suit, the scuba suit to shoot. And I called it the Great Equalizer, because nobody looked good in that thing. Once you could come in the actor van looking all hot and have your hair done. But when you put that thing on, every bulge, everything showed. And nobody looked good in it. Nobody. So they look good in the end when they got computer graphic. So I called that the Great Equalizer. So everybody was just, we're all just sad Muppets.
So when you're, as you say, it was a unique experience for you, I imagine, coming in there into that suit on that stage. What was it like being able to see your avatar and understand and like move it and be able to have that experience?
It was strange. It looked nothing like me at first, and the final product looked like I looked 30 years ago. After I lost my job. It was interesting watching it come to. It was, and coming from a place where I had no knowledge of video games, it was pretty wild, kind of looking at the enormity of it and what that, seeing a character over there.
and the amount of work that probably, as you say, had to go on behind the scenes by the animators and everything to... crazy. But
so I saw the final product. I didn't get the final idea of exactly what it was. And it was like, is my mustache really going to look like that? Should I say something? And they're like, don't even look at it. Don't worry about it. It all turned out great.
Exactly. And then when you saw your son playing it, what was it like seeing your character appear and like watching him play it?
It was funny. I don't have a lot of reverence for the acting profession around the household. I don't encourage it as a family thing. So it's just, I'm doing this jackassy thing. Look at the jackass. And he embraces that and, lets me get hit by the train 8 times. And he thought that was very funny. It's like, why don't you get out of the Dad? Boom! Oh! So, yeah.
Did he make any snide remarks about like how your character walked, or because that was something that Rob?
No, he's like, yeah, that looks right. That looks like Dad. Yeah,
that's amazing. Because Rob was telling me that like the first time he saw his character run, he was like, "Why did they make him run like that?" And he was like, "Oh wait, I run like that." Oh no. Which, as I say, it's not something that anybody else in the world ever really has to deal with unless you've been in a video game. So that's incredible.
Like early on, they had me run, and like year 1, they do a running thing, and where they film, and I for some reason was doing this weird little limpy hop thing, this kind of slight limp thing, and then I was stuck with it for 5 years. And that's like, you gotta remember how he runs. He's not the gazelle.
I'm loving it. Something that I seem to be getting from this chat though is that like you made a lot of on the fly decisions and then stuck with them, and I love that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Just kind of live in the moment by the seat of your pants. That's what this is, isn't it?
Yeah, because that worked with the character, because that's what the character was going through, I think. So, he had no idea what was happening or where he was going, but he was just trying his best to fit in and be helpful. Try to be helpful. Yeah.
But even down to the fact that, like, I mean, one of the things about the character, without giving too much away here, but like, there will be a little spoiler warning in the description anyway, but like, one of the best things about the character is that he's not one note, in that, like, he does kind of turn himself around. You know what I mean? It's nice when you see a character like that come out the other side and they're better. They're a better person as you've gone on through the game.
That always. Yeah, I think that was always with the character. That was always deep in the inside, with all this kind of muck on top and silt and sludge and whatever his life was deep down inside. He was that person, I think. So it was like peeling away all the garbage in his life to get to that point, I think, yeah. And like, one of the things that I also appreciate is there's very few characters in this game or this series that get what I would consider to be like a happy ending. And that's one thing I liked as well, is that Reverend Swanson kind of got a happy ending. He didn't get his head blown off by anybody. So that was... Unless you do in the game. That was the joke around the dinner table when the scripts came in. I go, I'm not dead yet. I'm still alive. They're like, wow, 5 years. You've never had a job 5 years, man. You usually get fired way before that. I don't know how it worked. But God bless them.
They just had to keep you around.
I don't know. They could have.
Well, I'm grateful they did, because I think you brought a great mixture of, as we said, that kind of comedic nature, but also the kind of, like a real sense of somebody struggling with stuff, which, all the characters in this game have that to some degree. They're all putting on a show to the people around them to some extent. But I think Swanson's maybe the one that's a bit more human about it. He's not putting up as much of an affront, a fake personality. He's kind of like, well, this is me.
I was working out my personal issues through the character, so that's attempted a joke.
Oh wow, that was that was like British humor. I love that.
Well, I think it's funny because it's true. I don't know, but yeah.
So you did connect with this character though, like he did. By the end of those 5 years, you were like, you resonated with him.
Yeah, I think I resonated with him almost automatically, almost immediately.
Really?
Well, my version of the character, what I locked into, what I was doing. I was confident in what I was doing. I don't know if the writers were thinking the same thing or like, holy crap, what are we going to do with this guy? But they didn't fire me, so
that's the best outcome. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all we can hope for. But one of the things that I found interesting is that in the game, Reverend Swanson is very, very staunchly anti-Catholic, which is very funny. Like when he's dealing with Javier. I can't remember who else he attacks about it. He attacks somebody else too about this. And when we were speaking through emails, you were saying that you have Irish stock in you.
I'm a Catholic. I'm an Irish Catholic.
Yeah, well. So I just love that so much. It's really funny because then you have...
I have no idea what it means, but why he said that. But I just said it like I meant it.
It's really funny because I imagine Roger is also Irish Catholic, but again, his character is Protestant in the game and very like kind of mocks Sean and stuff. That's who Swanson mocked as well, was Sean. Yeah. But I just love that. I love that when you get to play a character who is you in so many ways, but then other stuff that you'd never say or do in your own life.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you mentioned Sean Mick who plays Sean.
That's
also one of the
Mick.
people I connected with and had a few pints with, and I've seen his plays and I just love him. He's a great guy. I love hanging out with him. Yeah.
Mick is wonderful, and he's so... What I love is that he's been living in New York since, I think, the year 2000, and he still has his exact Cork, Dublin mixture Irish accent. Like, his accent hasn't changed, which is amazing.
I saw him do a play on the Lower East Side last year, and there was like 5 people in the audience in this just absolute shithole theater next to a bar where you could bring in a pint. And it's this tremendous. He does this thing. It's a tremendous, like, an hour-long monologue that he does, and he's absolutely fantastic in it. But there was somebody in there who had a bad mix of drugs, who was on a first date and was talking through the entire thing and commenting, like saying, and it's a very small theater. And God, look, Mickey just drove through it, and he didn't bother.
Just ignored it. Just didn't let it into his head.
He kind of took it in and worked with it and took power over it. But it was a really interesting, weird theater experience. So anytime he has a play, I show up now, because who knows what will happen.
That sounds very accurate, because he also told me that he had a play where someone had a new hearing aid and they were shouting like crazy. What's going on? What's good? And he was like, I'm just supposed to go through my scene, you know. I suppose that's the difference with stage acting versus film, TV, etc. is there's no all takes. There's no you just have to live in the moment, fly by the seat of your pants.
Mick is not tased, man. He is not tased. Drives ahead.
I mean, okay, so I'm gonna say something that will probably surprise you a little bit, which is that this probably won't surprise you, but I'm a big horror fan. I make horror movies. I've loved horror since I was a kid. I saw Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 5 years old. Unfortunately, it traumatized me, but then I kind of fell in love with the genre after that. But I used to go to the video rental store with my uncle all the time in the 90s, and he used to rent me stuff. And one of the films that I grew up watching, I'm not even joking, and when I went to look you up, I was like, no way, was The Surgeon.
Some of you, I'm sure, are well aware of the results from yesterday's ill-fated procedure.
Good morning, Dr. McCann. I'm glad you could make it.
Dr. Stein!
Dr. Teresa McCann is passionate in her work.
And you let him perform the operation again as if nothing happened?
The baboon had a grand mal seizure.
Passionate in her life.
My idea of a good time is a canoe, a flat lake at sunset, and a good bottle of wine.
I can do canoes.
With somebody else.
There was no emergency she could not handle.
Move her to dialysis. What?
Until the experiments began. Someone from her past
Hendrix!
has returned. A genius she adored. A lover she betrayed. He is performing extraordinary operations, and he never uses an anesthetic.
The nightmare's real.
He'll want me next.
Are you willing to let us take advantage of that?
Do you want to know what went on between Matar and I? Let your imagination run wild.
And as much as she fears him and hates him, she cannot resist the sensual,
Going up?
passionate,
I've been looking forward to this reunion for some time.
tender caress of a razor-sharp scalpel.
Crazy way you thrill me, Teresa.
First Freddy, then Jason, finally a professional.
I know what you doctors are up to.
The doctor will see you now, all of you.
You've seen that piece of you've seen it?
I love The Surgeon. Don't say it.
I do.
Yeah, I love it. I actually told my friend who runs a horror podcast in the States to check it out, because I just got reminded by it when I looked you up. I was like, I've seen that movie. A little tiny video rental shop in Castleconnell, Limerick in Ireland.
Can I tell you, the script we shot for that was pretty brilliant. It was like this whole psychological thriller thing where we had all, and that's what attracted like Malcolm McDowell and Charles Dance and James Remar to that project. And then for whatever reason, in the finished product, when they started cutting it, this one I could talk about because there's no NDA. They cut the shit out and they made it into this awful slasher. And I don't know if it was, I have no idea what it was, but my whole performance in that is based on this big kind of operatic, wonderful, interesting, bizarre thing. And you see it's shot by this amazing DP, and the director was Carl Schenkel.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he was German and died very young of a heart attack, but rest his soul. But wonderful, interesting, bizarre director. And we were all taking this thing very seriously, like it was, potentially. And I signed for 3 to do 3. Wow. And I'm a young actor out of Yale School of Drama with not a penny to my name. Literally, I'm sleeping on couches, and my brother and I are in Brooklyn, and we're just foraging for food. We're trying to live on $2 a day. And somehow I auditioned for this and got the part. And I'm whisked away in a limousine to LA. This is back in the 90s. And, flown first class, and I'm wearing raggedy clothes. And I'm on a movie set. We do this amazing movie. And the producers are taking me out to dinner for the entire year where they're in post. Yeah. And then the thing finally, and they're like, oh, there's some issues with it. And then whoever the company that originally produced it sold it to somebody else. Somebody else didn't want it. And then the finished product was, it's still good as a horror movie.
Yeah, exactly. As a slasher movie, it's a fun slasher movie.
Yeah. Okay, good. So that's, and maybe they were smart. Maybe that's what they wanted to do with it.
I don't know.
Just the heartbreak from that. Huh?
I can
Maybe
imagine.
you could resolve this in my heart after all these years. I'm like, oh.
I mean, as I say, I came from the perspective of growing up watching, as I say, Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween and all those slashers. So for me, it was another fun slasher, and I always kind of questioned why it wasn't kind of seen as being up there with those other slashers. And I'd kind of forgotten about it, though. I'm not gonna lie, until I went looking you up, and it was literally like one of those PTSD trauma moments or something. When I saw I was like, oh my god, no way. But I think I've heard people say about that movie on podcasts and stuff that it felt like there was more to it that ended up on the cutting room floor. Like it felt like there was more of a story around medical malpractice and all this kind of stuff that said, you know what, screw that, we just want to see a dude kill people. That's what's in right now.
Yeah. Get the stripper in from Vancouver and show her, take it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and I'm sorry to go off on it, but literally, this is something I've suppressed for 30 years.
I'm sorry, I've awoken the beast.
I was so proud of it. And then I was like, oh, shit. Yeah.
But did you still go to the premiere and everything and enjoy that experience at the time?
No premiere. It was,
oh, wow.
No, there was no, it was just basically, and the producers would come to New York. And they say, hey, Sean, we're in town. Let's take you out to dinner and stuff like that. And so we go out to dinner and do the whole 90s Hollywood thing. And then, so what's happening? What's going on? Well, we don't know yet because there's still a lot of wrangling. So I think there were still hopes and ambitions of this thing being something that a studio would get behind. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
And just didn't happen.
I think it's one
of the... I've suppressed. It was such a heartbreak.
I think
I haven't talked about it.
Oh
so
no,
Paddy, I appreciate so much.
I'm sorry. As I say, I've actually reawakened old wounds, reopened old wounds. Because as I say, all I can do is kind of say that for me, as I say, I enjoyed it as a kid. I hope there's always that hope, I think, with movies like that as well, though. Like what I'll say is the one thing about the horror thriller genre more than any other is that films always have the potential of becoming cult classics way down the line. Example of that I'll give is there was a film called Night Beast, which was made by a guy in his back garden for like $15,000 in 1982, and literally last year, because someone on a podcast spoke about it, it's so there was T-shirts everywhere. Everybody was proud of this movie and was like, "Oh, you got to check out Night Beast." So that The Surgeon could be one of those movies. You know, it could be reawakened.
Yeah. It was originally called Exquisite Tenderness, which was a far better title.
Yes.
Although it sounds like a never mind.
A Skinamax film, I agree.
Film. Men and more men, but yeah. Well, I very much, very, very appreciate that you've seen it.
Well, where it comes from as well is, as I say, look, I can empathize to some degree with the fact that my own film that came out in April, I was meant to have the experience of going to LA and having a premiere and all that jazz, and then COVID came along and was like, "You're not going anywhere. You're stuck in Ireland." And the film got released straight onto VOD amidst a sea of other films. And it's like, it can be difficult, all right, to kind of to come to terms with that and accept that that's what's happening with it. And there's nothing it's out of your control. Like, you can't change how people are going to receive it. But I guess that's true of any creative art.
Because the amount of energy and love and knowledge is just enormous, like people can't fathom. And then it gets,
Yeah, they really can't. I mean, I think as well, it's always difficult because when you talk about something where you do have, like, I mean, with The Parish, we just put 25 grand of our own film of our own money into it. We didn't have any outside investors. It was just the company, like me and my friends, effectively. Getting this movie made, so there was no one to answer to in the sense of, like, we have to cut this or change it or blah. And sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing. Sometimes not being told what to change is not necessarily good. But at the same time, it does give you that feeling, at least, of, like, in the instance of The Parish, I'm like, okay, I'm happy with how the film is. I don't really care if people don't receive it well. I'm happy that it is what it is. But I can imagine that in the situation that you're speaking about, where you don't have that control and it's kind of like in the producer's hands and they're going to do what they want with it, that can be very tough, all right?
Yeah, but over the years, I think it's what we have to get used to as artists, is that you have to worry about producing and yourself and how the world reacts to it or how people react to it, right? Is up to the winds. And sometimes if they do react wonderfully to it, it's hollow and false and people, get crushed for that.
It's interesting because I have a filmmaker friend from New York, Joe Lynch, who's a bit of a mentor to me, and he did a movie called Knights of Badassdom in 2011, I think it was, and it was touted. It was Comic-Con. They did a big, massive Hall H event, and it was huge. And then the producers, the kind of situation where the producers tore it to shreds. It didn't end up the same film that it was meant to, and Joe goes to events and people say, "Oh my God, I love that movie. It's like one of my favorite movies." And he said he has to kind of, like, it almost hurts him to hear that because he's like, "I'm so not proud of that movie." Oh my God.
Yeah. It's horrible. Yeah.
It is. And it's horrible because no matter what stage along the process, like whether you're an actor, director, writer, like, you're affected by that. Like, it's not just that, it's not the top of the food chain, it's everyone down along. But in saying all of that, I'm telling people that they should seek out The Surgeon, because I think if you're looking for a good Halloween horror slasher, like, it's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun. Lots of nasty syringe effects and stuff, if you're into that kind of thing. So
I will come to your kid's bar mitzvah dressed as The Surgeon. $40 a case of beer, and I'm there.
I mean, it's got to have been amazing to work with the likes of Charles Dance and Malcolm McDowell and Peter Boyle. Like, these are icons,
Yeah. Like,
have you any? I mean, I know I'm reopening old wounds still. I'm still digging at those. Look, I could have just moved on from this, but I've got the scalpel out. I'm just still cutting up the stitches. Like, do you have any interesting stories about working with, like, Charles Dance, who's obviously, like, as I say, an icon? I mean, you literally had him strapped to a chair and were messing with his head.
The only thing I remember about Charles is that once we were in the band in Vancouver heading out, and he turned to me and says, "You should play Macbeth." I said, "Okay." Okay. So, but Peter Boyle says, let's go for Chinese food. So I just remember this enormous Chinese meal, and he's like, "Tell me your life story," and I'm like, "You really want to hear?" So I told him my life story, and he's like, "That's interesting." And then the waitress came over and says, "We'll have another round." So like massive plates of food, and then we'll have another round of all the food. So yeah. So everybody was really kind to me, and Malcolm. The story with Malcolm was we were on the set of a mental institution, and this absolutely gorgeous woman was kind of walking around by herself, and I was kind of lonely at the time, and I struck up conversation with her and was kind of flirting, which I was terrible at, not good at, but I thought it was wow, maybe I might get a date with this gorgeous woman. It's Malcolm's wife.
Oh my goodness.
Tell me that. Yeah, I was totally like, wow, who is this? Because she's 30.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. And Malcolm was great. He was wonderful to work with, professional and kind because I hadn't really done a movie before. So they were all extremely kind and respectful, and they didn't treat me like poop. So that was great. So that was good.
Yeah. So there at least we can close this out in some positives, so that's cool. Like we can close this part of the discussion.
Yeah.
But then, we've talked Red Dead, and we've talked
about the nature of art. Now art is horrible.
We've kind of talked about
unrequited love. You love it. And somebody goes, "It's crap. It's crap."
That's, as you say, these are the things we learn to put up with. I've read reviews of my movie where, and I've had to put up with it in the sense that I read a review recently where it said, loads of nice things about the movie. It said, this actress is fantastic, the cinematography is great, the special effects makeup is fantastic, but the writer-director is terrible. And I just have to be like, don't get too dejected. There's a lot of positive things about the film in there. And that's bizarre to have loads of positive things about a movie, but then say the direction is not good. It's like, okay, just move on. But you've worked on TV a lot as well over the years. You've been on a lot of the kind of, you've kind of featured in a lot of the bigger shows like Law and Order and things like that. Was that, is that something that kind of, in a lot of ways, because you were obviously a working actor, was that the thing that was sustaining your career?
No, I have 3 kids and a wonderful wife, and that's what sustains me. So, and the other stuff, it's wonderful when it comes up. And financially, when I got to the second kid, it was getting a little tight in between gigs. So I picked up another side hustle, they call it now, which has become more of a career, which I actually enjoy quite a bit. So I do both now. So I work in sports television behind the camera, kind of setting things up and plugging things in and cleaning cables and monitors and that sort of thing.
But that's kind of all. What I love is hearing stuff like that as well, though, because I think people are so resistant. A lot of creatives that I've met are so resistant to change, or resistant to there can be something else that you could potentially enjoy just as much or more, and are very resistant to more. Whereas I love hearing these stories of you find something that is, it starts out, as you say, as something that you're not necessarily as your primary focus, but then ends up becoming I actually love doing this. I really enjoy it. Right. That's what this channel is for me. It started out as just something for fun, and now I've grown to love it so much over time.
Yeah, I found over the years that acting is an enormously selfish profession and self-involved, and I'm not really attracted to the Instagrammy things and self-promotion, and so my side job became as a supportive person in producing a work of broadcast or television, or in this case sports. Yeah. That I'm operating things that films the professional athletes and stuff like that. for me, it feels like the Jews would call it mitzvah. You're doing something good. You're giving to things as opposed to having all the focus be
on you,
and then which just becomes you're eating yourself from your ego as you get older and things like that. So I made a lot of mistakes. I think I was when I was younger I thought I was hot shit, and I was told I was the next. A lot of smoke was blown up my tuchus when I first got out of Yale. I got the horror movie and William Morris and screen testing with Paul Newman and all the things. A lot happened, and then it all went away, and it was a hard lesson. But then I had to kind of re-examine what
mattered,
what attracted to me to acting. It was never people saying "just a kid" or liking my "you're so handsome," all the absolutely vacuous crap that is not the reason why you get into it.
Absolutely.
So,
I think that's such a good lesson, though. I really do, because I think I do, because I think that especially I think it happens on both sides of the camera nowadays. I think I see a lot of filmmakers that do fancy themselves as auteurs and I'm like and kind of get told by people you're the next Stanley Kubrick, you're the next whatever, and they kind of buy into it, and then 2 years later they're left in a gutter on the side of the street like, no, actually you weren't, we were just we just wanted to get the one movie out of you and now move on. And I think it is an important lesson for people who are a bit naive to the industry to learn. And I think sometimes you can tell people a million times, but people often won't learn it until they experience it themselves. But that's the nature of being, I suppose. Yeah. But you are still you are still quite active, because I was even, as I say, I was having a look at your IMDb page. I always do before I pop on, and you've had you were in a feature film that's still in post production at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. You're probably
coming out. It's coming out in November, I think. Called
Yes. What's it called? Sorry.
Talking to God.
Yes, that's the one.
Talking to God. And and I think we filmed it in maybe 14 days in Staten Island, and the woman who directed and wrote it was a former physician and brilliant, and just not crazy, but just had this insane vision, and none of us really knew what the hell we were doing. But then as it evolved and we kind of saw it, we're like, I think this might be something that's really good. And it's comic, and I play kind of this crazy Hollywood character who's never happy and angry and marching around, and it's so over the top. It's like George C. Scott over the just crazy
nice
stuff that I get to do. And I haven't seen it. None of us have seen it, but it's touring around. It's getting all these European festivals and getting a lot of really good awards and things. So I'm happy for her, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it is.
It's great though. It must have been a little bit cathartic to play that type of character after everything we've just kind of talked about. It must have been kind of cathartic to play this asshole movie exec.
Yeah, and have a director. She scream at me. There's one scene we're doing where I was supposed to be angry and banging at the door in the middle of Staten Island, and I'm making $30 a day on this thing. And she's like, "More, do it more." And she made me do it 35 times. And I'm pretty out there, I'm going for it, man. And so it was fun. It was tiring.
Go more Nick Cage, more Nicolas Cage.
Geez. Yes. I kind of like Nicolas.
Oh man, I think he can be phenomenal. Yeah. He's one of those actors that I think no matter what he's in, he will entertain you in it. It doesn't matter if it's a good movie, a bad movie. If Nicolas Cage is in it, he will be entertaining. But
he's doing full on Klaus Kinski.
He is exactly. Yeah. Was it Fitzcarraldo is this famous Klaus Kinski story? Him and Werner Herzog putting a gun to his head or something. Yeah. The one where they're dragging the boat through the Amazon forest. It's I just remember watching a documentary about Herzog. and he's just
Where?
insane.
Yeah.
Like telling him he was going to shoot him and stuff. And you're on about, like, that's funny because it ties into what you were just saying about the director being like, go for it. Like, you had Herzog be like, I'll shoot you. Do it. The things actors have to put up with.
That's what I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go for that anytime. I'm totally into that. Yeah.
It is one of those things where, like, what I've noticed myself and what I've been doing is that, like, actors seem to have such different processes. It's always so hard. Like, coming in, you're kind of like have to gauge, okay, what do I need to do to get this out of this person? What do I need to, because, you know, you have one actor who's just like, dude, I don't need anything. I know where I am with this. I know where I'm going. Leave me alone. And then you have somebody else who's like, get me there. Like, bring me to where I need to go. And it's like, do you find that, like, for you, have you always had a kind of process that you've stuck to, or do you just kind of go in and what you're feeling on set that day is how it's going to go?
No, I have a huge process that I go through, and then when I get to the set, I try to suppress it or erase it. So when my director tells me where to go, what to do, and how to do it, I do what he wants.
Yeah,
you know, because I think that's my job, is to serve the script and the director, because all the stuff that I've done in my head, all my crazy stuff that I've put in there, may or may not fit into his vision of what he did or why he cast me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's cool though. I'm sorry for all the million questions about this stuff. I'm just so fascinated by the whole process. I love getting inside the head of actors and stuff. It's just something that I think, again, going back to being a wannabe director, or as my friend Joe Lynch always tells me whenever I say that, he's like, have you directed a movie? I'm like, yes. He's like, well, then you're not a wannabe director anymore, you're a director. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But I think that does lead me to a place where, as I say, I am fascinated by the process, like what it takes for somebody like to perform.
Because of my other job where I do production and we set things up and do stuff like that, I have a different understanding of things like budget, timelines, angles, lighting, all the camera angles and all those things like that. So for me to, in my younger days, maybe I held up production. There was one day or one moment when, you know, I was unhappy with something, and this is my trailer till this is explained to me. Like, how embarrassing is that? All right, it's during the surgery, and they said when you get off the bed and you're dead, but you wake up again, you're fully naked. I went, that's not in my contract, man. I'll be in my trailer, talk to my agent, but you're not putting my penis on, in this movie unless I'm getting paid, and it's in the contract. So, sorry, I don't know why this is coming out of me.
I'm sorry,
the surgeon trauma.
Is this therapy? Like, yeah, I'm sorry.
It is. Oh my God. I probably have to send you a check for like $100 after this.
No, just when you come to Ireland, just buy me a pint. That's all.
Yeah, I definitely. And that was one time when I held up production, and I've regretted that. I should have just, because who cares really at this point? I should have just done it. When they said, go ahead, do it, I said, okay.
I get you, but it's hard. It's hard sometimes to think objectively in those moments, because, like, on the very first film I shot, there was a line of dialogue that I wanted said, and the actor was like, I'm not saying that. And I was like, I got very angry about it, and I remember being like, well, why the fuck did I even write the script? So what's the point of it? And I got really angry. I regret that. I look back on that and go, oh my God, why did I overreact that much about something as stupid as a line of dialogue that can be so, in a film where 90% of it was ad-libbed anyway? Why did I get so hung up on that? And then another time, more recently, I think, as I've grown as a filmmaker, I had a scene in The Perished where the actress was supposed to be in the bathtub and she had to jump out, and she was to be nude in that scene. And then she said on the day, look, I don't feel comfortable with that. And I said, well, then that's totally fine. We'll work out something else. That's not an issue. Like, I don't want you doing any... I said, for me, the reasoning behind it was meant to show the vulnerability, because the bathtub is that place that's like where you're vulnerable. It's Nightmare on Elm Street did that perfectly back in the day with the bathtub scene. But I was like, but it doesn't... It's not essential, and I don't want you to be uncomfortable. so we can work something else out. Whereas I think where I was at the start of all this, I was a bit pig-headed about stuff.
Yeah. That's great.
It's a learning, I suppose, as you said as well. It's learning to get over your own ego and
that's a huge thing.
Look at what's the best for everyone. So you've got Waiting for God coming, or is it Waiting for God or Looking for
God?
Talking to God.
I think it's Talking to God. And who knows?
Yeah. Which there we go. It's like all I have to do is remember Reverend Swanson talking to God. Perfect. There we go. But that's coming up soon. Have you got any other projects in the pipeline that are coming up or anything like that you want to share?
No, I'm doing a ton of reading. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of reading, and just got a new guitar. Don't let my wife say that.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to play. Yeah, got a really nice Gibson. So I'm looking forward to playing that, and writing a lot of that songs.
I didn't know you were a musician as well. Fantastic.
Yes,
you enjoy playing music, obviously, so that's what's important. Again, it's not about it's about the feeling you get when you pick it up. I you can probably see it back here, but I have my bass. I got it. It's an Aria, but like I love it, and it's as we said, it's that like some days I'll be here working on stuff and I'll be getting a bit flustered and a bit annoyed and a bit frustrated, and I'll just grab the bass and play for 5 minutes, and I'll watch how it's like meditation, just like cleanses you.
Totally is, totally is. It totally hooks you into a different place, and
And are you with them? I mean, just in terms of, because obviously the world is in such a strange place at the moment, with everything that's been happening. Again, that's part of why I set up this channel, was because all film work was not going to be going anywhere for quite some time. So, are you dealing well with everything at the moment? Are you still working? Are you has this affected you in a massive way? I mean, obviously it's affected everybody to some degree in a massive way, but just a little part of what this show is about. Is it, if people are comfortable in discussing it, is just kind of what the experience has been like around the changes to the world in this year. It
affected me in a massive way. I mean, in our particular neck of the woods, we got hit pretty hard in northern New Jersey, where I live. And my brother's a nurse out in Arizona on the Hopi reservation, so he's in the thick of it. And I mean, we tried to, as a family, my son was in college, so he came home from college. So we have everybody, all three of my sons are home. And so we've tried to make the best of it and just cook and be, insular. And then social unrest that was upsetting me and affecting me a lot. And then I just kind of let that go a bit, just for my own mental health, and just kind of stopped reading the news so much a little bit.
That is such a liberating thing, though. I had to do the same. I had to stop paying as much attention to stuff like that, because, as you say, it just... I already have trouble sleeping at night. I'm already an insomniac. I don't need more stuff to be dwelling on at 4 o'clock in the morning. I empathize with that. But the one thing I'll say is that it's been... Obviously, this has been an event that's just... It's insane. And what really ran that home to me was that when at the very start of all this, my daughter asked me, she's 9, she asked me, what did you do when you were in lockdown when you were a kid? And I just had this moment where I went, oh shit, she expects us to know what the hell is going on. Like, she thinks that we have been through this and that we know what's happening, and we don't. Like, we are so in the dark. And that was a really oh God, I'm actually a parent. I'm actually supposed to know what I'm doing. Oh no, moment for me. And
I don't.
Yeah, exactly. But then the other side of it has been that it has allowed me to take stock of what's important, I think.
No, that's it. It's not, it's nice we seem to have more real conversations between me and my kids and stuff like that. And
And even just if it's something like picking up a guitar, reading a book, things that normally we might be like, oh, I'm way too busy to do that. It is to some degree nice to be able to stop for a minute and kind of take a breath and go, okay, let's actually, I'll go for a walk today. Oh my God. Like, that's not, when I was up the walls with production, I was not thinking about going for walks because it was always like, no, these 4,000 things on the to-do list have to be done.
And also for me, there was so much of my mind was occupied with how other people were succeeding, and maybe I wasn't. I was spending so much time worrying about the actors I went to drama school with who were doing better than I was, or I thought were doing better, and things, and auditions, and the paranoia, and trying to get a job and hoping people like me. And then it all disappeared, and it was and there was nothing that wasn't there anymore, and it was kind of wonderful that part went away. That I don't
social
know,
pressure.
So I gained a lot of time, I think, through that.
Yeah.
Worrying about other people and what they were doing, what they thought.
Again, though, I think that is something that's been very common throughout this as well, because one of my best mates, he saw that I started this channel, he saw that another of our friends started a YouTube channel and was doing his stuff, and he was like, I feel like I'm useless because I'm not doing anything. And I was like, dude, there's no obligation. That's the thing, is that right now we're in a time where I'm only doing this because I really wanted something to keep my brain occupied or I'd go crazy. Like, but there is no obligation to do anything right now. If you just want to sit down and be with your kids and watch TV, do that. Like, it's fine. But as you say, I think that a lot of people were stuck in that mindset of, people seem to be using this time to bake or do X, Y, Z. Like, people seem to be learning all these skills. Why am I not? And I think there was a social pressure to some extent there as well. But it's nice to hear that, as you say, it just kind of, this thing came along and kind of, for a lot of people, was also like, oh well, I guess like we're all in the same boat to some extent now. We've all got to just put pause on things for a bit. But I'm just glad. One thing I would say is that I'm just glad to hear that you and your family are safe and well. That is the important thing. Genuinely from the bottom of my heart. And your brother, I know the feeling with your brother, because my wife is a nurse, so like I have that feeling as well. If she's going out into the thick of things every day and I'm staying at home with the kids, and it's like she's the one that's at risk, well, going out into it. But what I think it's all about is and one of the reasons I've loved doing this channel and meeting people like yourself and Mia and Kylie and everyone that I've met so far is, it's just allowed me an opportunity to connect with people in this industry, and not even in this industry. That's kind of a bullshit term about this. Like, people who enjoy doing what we do, which is trying to tell stories in our own way, however that might be. I think, and that's why I love discussing and finding out, all the stuff that goes on behind closed doors, behind scenes, is just because I love to unpack that and analyze it myself. And obviously beyond that, everyone that I've met has been just a wonderful person. Like, I will say actually, of like everyone that I've interviewed, especially in terms of the Red Dead cast for the Outlaw sessions, I've not met one person with like an ego or like who's like, excuse me, do you know who I am? Like, what do you, how dare you? Like, everyone that I've spoken to from the Red Dead cast, you're like, well, wait till you get to such and such.
Do you know who I think I am?
No, but genuinely.
You've done Kylie. Okay. Yes, the sweetest person. Good.
I think that something that brings me so much joy is knowing how it seems to me that you guys were so close, like that, making this game. And to me, as a player who invested 200 plus hours in a game like that, it makes me happy to know that the people that were involved in making it enjoyed the process as much as I did playing it. And I think that brings a lot of joy to other people, other fans of the game as well, as just knowing that this process was challenging, tough probably, but enjoyable and fun for everyone involved.
We all went to a pub after one of the last days of shooting, and it was such a joyous, and there were people that I didn't necessarily spend a lot of acts with a lot, but we all, it felt like a family, and it was really a wonderful feeling to feel like a family like that.
Well, that's what the Vanderlyn gang was to me. Like, when I was playing the game, I was like, this is a family, because they fight, they kill each other, they say horrible, mean shit to each other, but then if somebody threatens them or does anything against them, they'll be the first to be like, no, you stay away from them, how dare you. Like, they're family, and in the only way that they're not family is by blood, and that doesn't matter, I don't think. When you've got someone like the Vanderlyn gang, they are more of a family than some real families. And I know I won't get into that because that's spoiler territory. I'll say that once we're off mic. But Sean, do you do the social media stuff, or are you kind of away from all social media?
I do a little bit, but I don't make a huge effort to get my glamour shots out there.
Well, would you like me to post a link in the description to where people can follow you? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I will do.
But I love the interactions I've had with people who I guess are fans of the game and stuff on social media. At first, I did a lot more, and kind of met a lot of wonderful people who played the game, and it was really fun to kind of hear their take on the Reverend and the game as a whole.
I've seen incredible fan art. That's the one that that's got to be amazing as well. Like, I've seen amazing Reverend Swanson fan art.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really cool stuff out there. It's really fun. Yeah.
So I will post the link below so that people can check you out.
Cool.
And guys, definitely hit Sean up with a follow. Sean, thank you so much again for taking the time to speak to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And the check is in the mail. It was wonderful actor therapy for me.
No, as I said, when you come to Ireland, we're going to have a pint. That's the only reward or payment that I want, is to have a pint with Reverend Swanson and have him relieve me of my sins.
Yeah. And if you got a horror movie that needs a reverence, we'll have a lot of pints. Or I could move crap and load trucks as well.
And
plug in cameras. I do that as well.
I know you let me shout at you for $30 a day now as well, so that's perfect. Damn it, shouldn't have said that.
$30, 3 pints a night. That place on your mother's floor. I could sleep, and then I'll be good to go. Be there at 6 a.m. every day.
Oh, Sean, thank you so much. As I say, I look forward to the day where we can shake hands, and hopefully all this will be I was going to say a funny memory, but probably not. It'll be a traumatic.
Yeah.
It'll be, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But guys, if you liked what you saw here today, as always, I implore you, to quote Bill Williamson, I implore you to hit the subscribe button down there below Sean, and get involved. Yeah, it's somewhere over there. My camera's mirrored, so I always muck it up. Oh yeah, listen to the Reverend, guys. Listen to the Reverend.
The Lord has spoken. Subscribe to Paddy Plays. Oh! Yes, was that the Reverend? I forgot.
So, as I say as well, I feel like it was great because you got therapy from this, and I'm gonna get my confession from you when you arrive. So we'll swap some therapy for some confession. There we go.
Absolutely. Good. I will talk best I can.
Thank you so much, Sean, once again. And guys, I'll say what I say at the end of every episode, which is, let's survive together and peace out.
Peace out.